Welcome! I'm Michelle Anderson, the founder of Clarinet Mentors, and today I want to give you a little easy practice tool that will really help you play more smoothly on your clarinet and have your fingers learn some new ways of moving that'll help you sound smoother and play more easily. So I have a very simple high-tech device here called a rubber band. And this is actually an amazingly helpful tool when we're trying to train our fingers to move properly on the instrument. One of the things that we want to have with clarinet is we want our fingers to be arched because our fingers move fastest when they're in a natural curve like this. And we also want them to come down gently over the holes. Now this is not our normal instinctive habit. In fact, I don't think I've ever seen anyone who does this naturally. Anyone I've seen who does this has practiced and trained their body how to do it. So as far as finger shape goes, if we make little hand puppet, little crab claws, we tend to naturally go in the right shape. Now, one thing about all of us is when we're trying hard and when we're concentrating, we tend to put tension into our body. And that will be in our shoulders, which can affect our blowing and breathing, which is not good for clarinet tone. But it also really shows up in clarinet fingerings. When it gets hard, we start smacking and slapping the keys. And not only will that tire our fingers out and slow us down when we're trying to play something really fast, it also bumps the instrument and literally makes bumps in the music. If we're trying to play something slow and beautiful and our fingers are slapping down, we're really going to hear that. Let's look at a musical example of that. I'm just going to play the beginning of the second movement of the Weber First Clarinet Concerto. And I'm going to play it the way most people do. I'm going to try and have the right rhythm and try and have good phrasing, but my fingers are going to be just a little clunky. And then we'll look at what it would be like if my fingers were a little bit lighter. Now, my fingers were pretty slappy in there, and we hear that. There's one part where I'm just going from my F sharp to my E to my D. Here's what it sounds like if my fingers are vigorous, even if my air is smooth. You can hear little accents there, and musically, I'm not intending for that to come out accented, but it is. Makes the music a little clunky, and it makes it sound like I'm working really hard. Our goal as musicians is to make it sound like the music is flowing effortlessly. If I lighten my fingers a bit, those three notes are going to sound a lot smoother. And musically, it makes a lot more sense. So, how can I use my handy-dandy magic tool here to help my fingers play something like the Weber Concerto more smoothly? Well, this is actually a really helpful tool because it's one thing to think in our heads, oh, I want softer, more gentle fingers. It's another thing to translate that into actual action. I don't think we can will our fingers to be softer. I think we have to train our fingers to be softer through repetitive exercises. A different part of our brain takes over. So here's where this tool comes in handy. We can put our clarinet, our fingers anywhere on the clarinet where we normally play. So for example, let's say I'm working on the first finger on my right hand. I can move it up and down, but my tendency when I'm playing is going to be to smack, smack. Here's what I do. I put a little rubber band on it and just hold my finger up. I don't want to put a tremendous amount of tension on my finger. This is not a weightlifting exercise, but just a little bit of resistance. And now as I try and pull that finger down, the lower I get, or the closer I get to the key, the more resistance I have in the elastic. So it actually slows my finger down. We tend to do the opposite. We tend to start somewhere up here and we accelerate until we're slamming at high speed into the hole. This has us do the opposite effect. So you can just hold your rubber band. That time I held it up close to the camera, but I could do it in playing position and just wiggle that one finger up and down, allowing it a little bit of resistance. When we lift up, we also want it to go in slow motion because popping a finger off the key will also bump the music. And I find that when I'm working this, I naturally don't want to just let it go. I let it go with some control. So it's not only helping me move my finger down more gently, it's helping me release it more gently. Now, you could put a few fingers in one rubber band. Usually I find at that point it adds too much tension, so I will sometimes do 2 or 3 rubber bands and then loop several through. So I might have a rubber band on each finger and run it through that way. I can do it on the left hand as well. So it's what I would do if I were you to practice this. Let's take a look at those 3 notes I was just doing. I was going from F sharp to E. Well, there we go. That's working out that finger I was just doing. So I would do it very lightly without the rubber band, just focusing on what that one finger feels like. Then I would take it away and really try and imitate it. And then I might play just those 2 notes with all of my focus going into how gently that finger is coming down. And I find after doing that rubber band warm-up, it's so much easier for my finger to know the feel of it, to actually come down easier. It's a great little tool. The next note would have me going from E to D. So same thing. I would do this little finger and move it slow motion. For me, this finger likes to pop up really fast. So when I practice that finger, it's good for me to notice that. I would say, oh boy, that really pops up. I'm going to be more in control of that. Again, I do a few with the rubber band, maybe try a few without it, making sure I'm not popping it up, which is what it likes to do. And then I might practice that interval. Now you'll notice my second one there actually didn't close very well at all. And this is really common when we're trying to make a change to our fingers. We're trying to be really gentle. Sometimes you miss the hole altogether, the note doesn't come out. Sometimes you kind of slide into it. Well, I think that's okay for this exercise. We're just retraining the motion and the force that that finger movement does. And even if we're not accurate, if we sit there and repeat it, our goal of course is to get it, that it does close the keys, but if we miss it once, we just readjust on the next one, and we keep repeating it until we're happy with the smoothness that we get. So I would do this 1 finger at a time, and then I would try things like playing in thirds, where you have 2 fingers, or maybe 3 fingers. And as I'm doing the video, I'm exaggerating my movement a bit so that you can see it clearly through the camera. But another good habit is to actually keep our fingers very close to the holes. So when I'm actually playing, I might try and keep them even lower and even closer to the holes so that I'm training them to not move very much. And this will ultimately help me to play much faster. All right, it's a short little tip, but it really will help you play smoother with faster fingers. It takes about 2 weeks of doing this before you really start to notice a difference. So I would recommend just put it in your warm-up. Maybe do 5 minutes of focused finger work like this, and then kind of put it out of your mind. But you might start to notice that you're more aware of your fingers when you are practicing the other music that you're working on. Now, I would love to hear your thoughts on this. If you have any comments or questions, there's a comments box right below this video. Please put it in there. I go in and check comments about once a week, and I answer any questions that people have that I know how to answer. And if I don't, I'll tell you I don't know how to answer. But I enjoy hearing from you. And if you're not already a member of my Clarinet Mentors community, I invite you to join me. It's absolutely free to join. If you're a member of the community, about every 2 or 3 weeks, you'll get a newsletter from me, and it will have an educational video, just like today's, plus anything that I think would really help clarinetists such as yourself. It might be my recommendations on instruments, music, reeds, ligatures, any kind of equipment, any fun gadgets that help us as musicians that I'd love to share with you. If it's not a good fit for you, you can unjoin very easily anytime. But simply go to www.learnclarinetnow.com to join the community, and then you'll have access to all my special resources as they become available. Thanks for watching today's video, and I look forward to seeing you again soon.